Good afternoon, and welcome to the New York State Office for the Aging's Ask the Expert, the Nutrition Edition. I'm Lisbeth Irish, and I'm a registered dietitian and the program manager for the New York State Office for the Aging SNAP Ed program. And I'll be your host today. This month is Parks and Recreation Month, and today we're going to talk about how to enjoy the outdoors by being active, because being active is a very important part of a healthy lifestyle in addition to healthy eating. Today, we have some experts from the New York City Department for Aging. We have Elisa Denzis.
Hey, everyone.
You might remember Elisa from last month's.
Yes. Yep.
And we also have Tamar Alkin. And we might be getting an additional expert along the way. Jaleesa Cabrera may be joining us somewhere along the line here. So we might have three.
I think she's in the waiting room, actually.
Oh, so she might.
So if we're able to let her in.
Well, looks like she's on the phone. Well, we can hear her maybe.
Hi, sorry everyone, good afternoon. I couldn't find, honestly, anywhere that was quiet or I was able to sit down, so I'm outside sitting on a park bench.
Well, we'll take any
active outside, literally.
That's right. Literally.
Right, it works out.
Give us firsthand experience.
But for the most part, I'll be on mute just because there's maybe some,
okay.
Noise.
That's fine, but feel free to chime in anytime that you would like to. These educators do amazing SNAP Ed programming for older adults in the New York City area. They do workshops in English, Spanish, and Cantonese all over the New York City area. And they also do workshops virtually. They do container garden distributions, and they also help coordinate food box distributions. So they're very busy. And they really contribute so much to the New York State SNAP Ed program. Before we begin our discussion today about, outdoor activities and some of the options, I just want to remind our audience that you can put questions in the chat, and we will try our best to answer as many as possible. So feel free to do that. So let's start off with the question I have. I know the things that sometimes I recommend to people who are older adults about, different activities they might do, but what are some of the things you guys tell people, older adults?
I personally recommend yoga because I think it's a form of exercise that is really easily adaptable. So to any physical limitations you might have, there's always some modified pose that you can do. So I think it's really beneficial. It's good stretching, and it's easy for everyone to find something that they're comfortable with within the practice of yoga.
Yeah, I've seen sometimes yoga is offered outdoors. Here in Troy, where I live, they have in one of the parks they do outdoor yoga.
Oh, that's awesome!
It's free too.
I always tell people do something that you love and it won't feel like exercise or burdensome, and it won't feel like, I have to go and do it. If you do something you love, whether it's getting out and taking a walk with a friend in a park, walking on the street, gardening outside. I see all sorts of groups in different parks and pools now in the summertime doing different aerobics and water aerobics and different exercise, even like I said, gardening, dancing, anything that you love to do that's physically active and gets you up and out of your seat and moving is great.
Yeah.
I think also anything with someone else. I find that having a partner or someone, some sort of accountability with someone else makes it a little bit more encouraging, right? Like, oh man, they're waiting on me. I better go. And It makes it a little bit more fun, right? If you go for a walk with someone, do something together, I think it makes the burdensome part of it a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah. I've noticed there's a lot of free programs around us. Like one of the things I'm going to do next Friday is there's a free kayaking. You can go for a couple hours and then you kayak someplace, and then there's free bikes that you can come back with. So we're going to do that. We tried it one other time and it was a lot of fun. I'm not an expert in kayaking, but I find it's a little less risky than some things. I'm not a big risk taker, so I'm comfortable.
A
with
good
it.
upper body workout.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's tremendous upper body workout. But learning how to do the strokes is important. But even if you're not doing it right, it's still a lot of fun, and you're out in nature and you see birds that you would never see before on the river. So there's a lot of things. Just even going to some of the outdoor concerts that are around here, you're going to do a lot of walking, getting there and back. So usually, so that's a fun thing to do in the summertime. What are some of the barriers that you hear? I know you mentioned, the motivation, like having a friend help, get you out there and keep you out there. But what are some of the things that people talk about is in terms of, why they don't like to do outdoor activities?
Allergies. I hear that as one of the barriers. Allergies. Heat. I hear another, like if it's too hot or too cold, right? So the weather, doing outdoor activities, the weather. If it's too hot, you have to be careful, especially if you're an older adult. You want to make sure you stay hydrated. If it's too hot, if it's too cold, you want to make sure that you're bundling up, particularly your extremities, hat, gloves, maybe some leg warmers could really help if you're outside and during the cold months. Those are the biggest barriers I would say that I hear.
I hear a lot of like ailments, like achy back, achy knees, achy joints. And I recommend in particular for arthritis, when people are struggling with that type of pain, the best thing you can do is be active, right? That's what helps relieve the pain. So I know it's a little counterintuitive, but it is the best thing you can do for that kind of pain.
Yes, that's one of the curriculums or one of the workshops that we're going to start probably in the fall of this year, probably in your area. SNAP-Ed is in New York State is going to start doing Walk with Ease, and that is specifically designed to help with arthritis pain, and it's walking to help with arthritis. So that's an exciting thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yes, we're super excited about offering that.
Yeah, I have arthritis, and I have, the more you stretch and the more you, what they say, motion is lotion, is what they say about arthritis.
I like that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, one of my patients one time told me that when I worked in the clinical area, and that's part of, it's an important thing. And the more you sit, the harder it is sometimes. Yeah. Oh, someone wants to know, how do you do outdoor activities if you have a walker?
I can take that. So you can still walk. You just want to make sure that there are places that aren't too bumpy to walk. I would say like paved sidewalks, or at a park, if they have like a loop that's paved, you can certainly walk. You can walk slow. There's no rush. There's no race when you're walking. So you can certainly get out and walk. If you have one of those walkers that also have a seat on it, you can also sit down and take breaks when you need to. So that way you don't have to look for a bench. If you don't have one, you can look for a bench, and when you see it, sit down and take a break. But if you have one of those walkers that has the seat, you can sit down and take a break. You can kind of do some stretching exercises too while holding on to the walker, perhaps. If it's a steady walker, you can do some leg raises, some stretches with the walker, but just look for paved areas outside.
I'd also recommend swimming if there's a pool that's accessible to you. Walker free, but it's another good way to stretch and another fun activity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I know we're talking particularly today about being outdoors because it's the spring, summertime, but if it happens to be bad weather or raining, you can always find an indoor mall and go walking indoors in the indoor mall. That's definitely for a walker. It's a smooth surface and lots of places to take breaks.
Yeah, sometimes people are concerned about safety, and I think Jaleesa was going to say something.
Thank you. I just wanted to chime in on Tai Chi. So I think Tai Chi is also a great form of exercise, gentle exercising. You can also, it incorporates a lot of breathing techniques and breathing rhythms as well, which is really important for overall health. And it's also pretty easy on the body. And then also for those who have arthritis in general, I'm someone who has rheumatoid arthritis. And so also anti-inflammatory diets are really important. So if you have ailments, body ailments, making sure that, you're staying away from a lot of processed foods and, just sticking with your good, healthy fats, that also helps. And staying mobile, like everyone's been saying, it sounds counterintuitive, but it really does help with the overall body pain and preventing injuries as well.
Yeah, it's true. Sometimes you can use, people that maybe don't necessarily have to use a walker, but maybe their balance isn't that great. Tai Chi is good for that. It decreases falls by half usually. And also sometimes I see people out there with walking sticks. Have you seen that where people have, or they use ski poles?
Not so much in the city, but I've seen it.
Yeah, you'll see it more in like Central Park and the park areas where you can go on little hikes. But yeah, they're becoming a lot more popular as well.
You know what I was just thinking about that you can do if you're used to walking with a walker? You can go to grocery stores or any like Target or any other like shopping store that has carts. And instead of the walker, you can hold on to the wagon and walk around the store, and that's still being active. So if you have to be indoors, you can go walk around a store holding onto the cart instead of your walker. It serves the same purpose.
I have one patient who he was really immobile and was kind of afraid to walk because he hadn't been walking too much. So we talked about just going out to his mailbox as a beginning, to get his mail and just doing small things so that he built up his strength so he was able to do it, without being afraid. You have great parks in New York City, so that's a great place to walk, just you want to go walk in those beautiful parks. We have some around us too. Also, there's the New York State parks. If people are looking for a vacation, sometimes you can just do like a day trip to a state park. And a lot of them have paved areas you can walk, even with a walker.
Yeah, I love state New York has amazing state parks. I mean, I love going, like you just said, a day trip. I mean, it's so awesome. Or even just a weekend trip, you really sometimes can get lost, but, it's the figurative speech of getting lost upstate is so amazing. And it's a great weekend breather if you can take that opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I used to live in Dutchess County, which is not too far upstate. And there's a bridge that goes across the Hudson River. I think it's 1.5 miles. But you're right over the river the whole way. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's free.
It is. It's stunning. I've done it. I did it 2 years ago. I love it.
Yeah, kind of feel like you're on a boat, but you're not. You're walking above it. I don't even like heights, and I like that. You can also bike across it, but I think walking is, probably a better way to go on that one. Sometimes safety is an issue with walking. Do you find that that's a barrier for some people, whether it be, we talked about the physical environment, but just, when to walk or where to walk?
If that's the case, then I usually recommend first thing in the morning,
Yes.
Where it's light out and there are other people around. Also, God forbid something happens, there's someone that you can, ask for help.
It's also cooler sometimes, yeah.
And going with a partner, not going alone. So going with somebody else. There's also tons that you can look for in your area, always tons of walking groups and walking clubs that you can find. So if you're nervous where you live, as far as safety goes, you can always look for a club so that you're going with a group. You're not going alone.
Yeah, I know Staten Island, one of the centers has like the New York Runners Club, and they go for like, long active walks together in a group.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some up here too. There's rail trails where they take paved over the railroad beds. And, sometimes there's walking groups that go up and down there. And certain times of the day, it's a lot more active. One of the things I like to do when I'm outside is, I probably mentioned this on a previous one, there's a bird app where you can, Cornell, well, I can't think of the name. Well, there's a Cornell University app where you can record the bird and it tells you what bird that is.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes you can't see them, but you can hear them. So it's something sometimes, you want to be careful if you're walking and using your phone at the same time, but maybe you could take a little break on a bench and do that. You don't want to fall because you're messing with your phone. But yeah, that's another fun thing to do while you're out walking around and enjoying nature. And nature helps your head too, I think. Whether it's in a park or even just walking around a neighborhood or the area where you live.
Yeah, I also always say that, like, you're never going to come back from a walk and be like, ugh, I wish I didn't just walk, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're always going to feel a little bit better.
Yeah, even in the rain, that's kind of cool actually, if it's not raining too hard, it's not lightning or thunder.
Well, that's actually, if you have a walker and an umbrella, I think that's a barrier that's worth discussing also. It's a little bit hard to do both.
Yes. So I do have an umbrella that hooks onto chairs, so that might work. But you want to be careful not to get distracted and trip or fall because you're playing with your umbrella. There's something else I was thinking. Anything else that you think is really important to talk about when we're talking about physical activity outdoors?
Stay hydrated, definitely.
Stay hydrated, yes.
Yes.
Water, and always start slow, right? So if you aren't accustomed to doing a lot of physical activity, it might not be the best idea to go out for a 2-hour hike or a 2-hour long
Right.
walk if you're not accustomed. So even outside, just start small. Like Elizabeth, like you said, start by taking a walk to your mailbox or a walk around the block or a walk down the block. You can start small and to not overdo it.
I think it's important to dress right too. You mentioned wearing layers during physical activity in the cold weather. That's kind of, when I used to walk in the winter, I would walk, with layers so I could take things off as I got, heated up a little bit. But also I always try to make sure I have decent shoes on. I don't know if any particular other things that you're thinking about in terms of being outside and what you're wearing.
I guess also, like protective against the sun. So, making sure you have a hat or it's long sleeves, if you're especially sensitive to the sun. I know my mom, she leaves the house with sunglasses, a hat, a shirt up to here covering her sleeve. She likes those shirts that have like the thumb pockets, so it really covers most of her hand too. She's very sensitive to the sun.
Yeah, if it's not too hot, we always suggest upstate that people try to have covering on their bodies to protect them from ticks, because we do have that problem up here, and checking for ticks pretty often if you're in nature, if you're in any grassy areas or woods.
Bug spray.
Yeah.
That too.
If people are outside for any length of time, are there kinds of foods that you suggest or beverages that you suggest? We talked about being hydrated. What kind of things do you guys recommend for people to take with them?
Water. It depends, if you're taking certain medications, you want to be careful not to drink too much electrolyte water, although electrolyte water could be good. Coconut water, which is a natural electrolyte water, is great. But again, you want to be careful if you're taking medications or have certain health conditions where you can't have too much sodium or too much potassium. You want to be careful. So I always recommend water. You can flavor your water, lemon in your water, fruit in your water, to kind of get another taste if you feel like you're not craving water.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, there's those little infuser bottles, or you can still find them sometimes, or squeeze them in the juice. I know some people ask me about sports drinks. What do you think of those?
I still recommend water.
Yeah.
It's nature's sports drink. It's the original.
Yep. Doesn't have to filter out anything to use it.
No, and they have a lot of sugar. A lot of times, those sports drinks, they contain a lot of sugar in them. I wasn't too happy when I found out that my son's sleepaway camp has a Gatorade machine on the boys side. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like those kids, like, yes, if you're sweating a lot, you might need some replacement of electrolytes, but there's also a whole lot of sugar added to those drinks.
Yeah, I was used to be involved in sports nutrition, and they also, if you're not exercising vigorously for at least an hour, you don't really need extra stuff in your drink besides water. And you can always take it.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Go ahead.
Nope.
I was gonna say, in terms of snacks, I always keep nuts in my bag.
Yeah.
Exercising and not exercising, Trader Joe's makes those like nice little packs. Just like a good thing to always keep on hand. It's got, the healthy fat, the fiber, the protein. It's a good snack.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially in the
Pretty
summer, the perishable part of it. You want to make sure you're not going to grow things in your snacks. Like, people think of cheese as a snack, but I that's not something I would bring in the winter because,
or in the summer.
Oh, I meant summer. And I
Oh.
said, sorry. But yeah. So one of the things I used to send my kids with was I would get some dry cereal and put some craisins or raisins or some sort of dried fruit and some nuts in there, just to have different kinds of things in there.
Yeah.
Oh, there's some questions here. Somebody thought of an idea. Standing up and dancing a bit at a concert is a fun way to move. Yes.
Absolutely. Especially now in the summer, I feel like there's outdoor concerts everywhere.
Yep.
I went to one on Monday night and there were definitely people dancing. They're definitely getting some
You
activity.
can put music on in the house too if you're cleaning your house too, to like make it fun and make it more exercise. And if you're older and it's hard for you to bend down, you don't have to be getting on your hands and knees. You can take a Swifter, which is like, Swiffer, one of those Swiffers, some light vacuuming with a light vacuum, but that's kind of like standing height, and kind of dance around, play some music. It makes it fun and you get some physical activity at the same time.
That's a great idea. A lot of fun.
I think also having like a tracker, if you can, having something to count your steps. I noticed that on days that I hit my 10,000 steps, I sleep better, I feel better, and I have way more energy than on days that I'm not even close. I find like I don't sleep as well, and I can tell that I didn't hit it.
Yeah, there's a question about how to stay motivated for a daily routine. And I think that's a great idea for, kind of keeping it going.
Yeah. I would say also for a routine, start small. Like, if you allot 15 minutes and then you accomplish those 15 minutes, it's a lot easier than saying, I'm going to exercise for an hour and then not being able to hit it. So keeping those goals small and attainable, I'd say, and building up.
And the buddy system, like you mentioned before,
Yeah.
that helps to have somebody go along with you. There's a question, any tips for those with diabetes or other blood sugar issues in exercise? Should something be eaten before or after?
Yeah, I mean, you should not, when you have diabetes, you want to be careful to not have an empty stomach and go too many hours without eating in general. But you should definitely check your blood sugars before, after, talk to your doctor about what your blood sugar goals would be before and after exercise, because they might be different for every person. So you definitely want to talk to your doctor so that when you're checking your blood sugar, you can make sure that you're staying in that range. Definitely want to have a snack, a good mix of, some healthy fats, some protein, some fiber, both before and after, I think would be good.
And sometimes if you're doing it after a meal or you're going to go home and have a meal, that can count as one of those.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of depends on the timing.
I also think the opposite, right? After eating, going for a walk is the best thing you can do to lower your blood sugar.
Right.
So also, the reverse is also helpful.
That's true. Yeah, and for diabetes, physical activity is huge. I had many patients, in my past career that really, that was a very powerful part of their managing their diabetes. It was an important tool. And they could see, in their blood sugars, it really made a difference. Let's see, if someone hasn't walked in a while, should they have physical therapy first?
I mean, I'll chime in and say that I think if you haven't walked in a while, you definitely should reach out to your doctor about that and be careful, because if we don't use our muscles, they tend to deteriorate, every muscle, right? So if you don't use them for a while, they get weaker. And so you want to make sure that you don't get hurt. You want to be safe. Definitely talk to your doctor. Your doctor might recommend physical therapy. Anytime I've had clients and patients and they have had like a procedure or an illness where they weren't doing their same level of physical activity as they used to, oftentimes the doctor will recommend some physical therapy just to get you back, your strength back to where you were before. So you definitely want to do that. Even in the mornings when I wake up sometimes after sleeping a full night, I have to like get steady on my feet, like and that's just through one night. So if you were inactive for an extended period of time, physical therapy can't hurt. Physical therapy is great for everybody.
Yeah, I also am a huge fan of physical therapy. And this way also, you're not doing it alone, right? So you know that there's someone around you that can help if you need help. I think it is a safer option for starting to get back into walking.
That's true. Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, anytime you do something new, it's good to run it by your doctor. They're usually going to be very encouraging, but if you have barriers that are physical that, they can help you work through and develop a plan. Oh, here's another one. Does walking after eating help with digestion?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. With digestion, with blood sugar management, with weight also.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, it's very important. It's the other half of the equation, the energy in and energy we burn.
Yeah, I think also for reflux, people who suffer from acid reflux, the worst thing you can do is lay down after a meal. So I think, right after a meal, if you can walk in any way, shape, or form, it just helps, so that there's nothing splashing back up.
Yeah, and if you find that things aren't moving too quickly, sometimes it's because we are inactive. It stimulates the movement of things through your digestive tract. When people have surgery or they've been laid up for some period of time, sometimes you need that help to get things moving along.
Yeah, even constipation, the first thing I'll usually recommend is water and movement.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Even just jumping. Like if you know what I mean? Just when you move, things inside you move.
And if you're having problem, jumping, if your balance isn't that good, you can do marching in place or, any of those kind of seated exercises.
Yeah.
And then start, stand up and do some things. Yep, I agree.
Good questions. Active chat today.
Yeah, excellent questions. Yeah, see too. Oh, somebody said they like the idea of watching birds while walking. Yeah. And I think that's, I don't know, like you said, Tamara, did you ever come back from Tamar? Sorry, I keep adding an H.
Okay, I'll answer to it. Don't
worry. Do you come back from a walk outside and say, gee, I wish I didn't do that? It's really changes your mindset too. I think when people are physically active, do you think that they tend to be, I know I do, make better choices with my food. I just have a better outlook.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I took a yoga class in college, it was like my first introduction to yoga. And I called my sister-in-law who had recommended it. And then she was like, don't you just feel better? Like, you're not going to go now and eat, 3 slices of pizza and garlic nuts. Like, you want to keep up the good work, right? So you're much more motivated and inclined to like reach for something a little bit lighter, a little bit healthier. So, it's cyclical in that sense.
Yeah.
And also chemically, right? Like the more we exercise, we have endorphins that are released and they make us feel better too. So, it helps mental health as well.
Yeah, I think with social isolation too, a lot of us are having a hard time reestablishing the connection sometimes. But even if you just see people, out there doing what you're doing or something, it helps you feel more connected.
Definitely. When COVID first started, after like the first few weeks in my home, we got into a routine. Every morning I would go out for my own walk by myself. And then every like late afternoon, early evening before dinner time, we'd go together as a family and just walk a little bit more just to keep that same because we were like inside and to get fresh air was important and to keep things moving. But it also just felt so good to keep those positive vibes.
Yeah, I do think that it helps. You know, it's so easy to sit down and just get tied up in your phone or a tablet or whatever. But when you get outside, I know when I come back, I'm more motivated.
I think also vitamin D, right? The importance of getting like fresh air and sunshine helps our immune system. It helps our bones. It really helps so much more than we realize.
Definitely. That weight bearing exercise, like walking our own weight, definitely helps. Yeah, and I think some of the ideas that we've talked about really are budget minded too. I mean, I know people are kind of, we're all trying to stretch our pennies at this point. Not that anybody uses pennies anymore, but it's just things are getting expensive sometimes. And I think a lot of the things we talked about actually don't cost anything.
That's right. Yep. You don't need an expensive gym membership to stay
Yeah.
active.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
I said also, if it's not great weather outside, I mean, I live in a walk up, so I don't have a choice. But if you have a building that has stairs, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, taking the stairs halfway and then calling the elevator, same thing. It doesn't cost any money, but it gets you in better shape.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, I was trying to think of some other places to walk. One of the things I used to do, I lived in a neighborhood where there were no sidewalks to the walking path. I mean, there's a beautiful walking path. To get there, you might get run over by a car. So I would sometimes drive to a parking lot that was along the way and walk on the path. Just, it was just a short walk. Or I could have taken a bus if we had buses where I live, but we didn't. But sometimes, if you just take public transportation to a nicer place to walk. I like to walk in cemeteries, to be honest. People might think that's kind of strange, but there's usually paved areas. And they're interesting. I mean, you get,
I'm sure it's quiet.
Yes, it is very quiet. There was one near, I would go during my lunch hour, and it was very quiet and very beautiful. So it's another place you might find.
You can also, if you're still taking public transportation, particularly downstate in New York City, you can always walk to the next subway stop or walk to the next bus stop to get some extra exercise in. So while continuous exercise is important, those extra minutes spread throughout the day are also important to help make up the rest of your physical activity. So I used to do that when I lived in Manhattan all the time. I would take a walk. I would say, okay, I'm going to take a walk to the next subway stop. Instead of getting on this one, I'll get on the one stop further, and I'll take a walk that way.
Yeah.
Same thing with the bus. I would get off a bus stop earlier and walk the rest of the way.
And I bet Jaleesa's pretty active in what she's been doing today.
I am. I'm walking as we speak.
You're walking as
for all of our activity.
Yeah, but also keeping track of the amount of steps that you take in a day, whether it's using a phone app or an odometer or a really inexpensive one, that really keeps you motivated as well.
Yeah, I agree. Keeping track. My Fitbit fell into the a pan I was washing, so it drowned. But that was too bad. I didn't have the water lock on, I guess. But I used to find that when I used it, I did pay more attention, like Elisa was saying, that, what I was doing. Even if they're not terribly accurate sometimes in terms of information, they just keep your attention,
It's a goal, and to me, I'm like, oh, I'm at 9,000. All right, I'm just gonna do one more loop and then I'll get to 10,000.
Right.
Or some days you're like, whoa, I only hit 700. I gotta do better tomorrow.
Yeah, and you can do that when you're walking. You can say, I'm going to walk 5 minutes more or whatever. If you don't have a Fitbit, you can always, and you can do a lot of things with walking. You can find a place that has a little incline, not a big hill, but an incline, or you can walk faster, or like I said, a little longer, or, there's different ways you can change it up so that it gradually becomes a little more challenging, whatever works for you, I think, I'd rather walk longer than super fast sometimes. Or some days I want to walk super fast and not as long, you can change.
Also, like changing it up. So I like to walk in different places because if you walk in the same places over and over again, you're kind of looking at the same things over and over again. So even when I walk near my house, I'll try to go down different streets, find different streets to walk down. I'll walk to another street and walk around. I'll walk on the different side, like trying to change it up is helpful.
They say that's good for your brain too. As a aging person, I try to, when I drive, I try to go different ways, but also walking in different ways makes your brain think differently, and has to change things up a little bit, keeping it, adapting. Yep. Let's see. I don't see any more questions. Well, we might wrap it up a little early today unless we have other ideas. I'm open to them. We can talk about more nutrition if you guys have any ideas about that. Or we could talk about, let's see. Any ideas?
I think like you mentioned, the dried fruit and nuts, because they're non-perishable, they're pretty good to keep in your walker, in your bag, and, anything you're taking with you if you're going for a small walk or a hike, they don't take up a lot of room, and they're a pretty good, quick source of nutrition if you're out for a while.
Yeah, I bring whole fruit sometimes. I will wrap it in, wash it and then wrap it in a few paper towels or a washcloth if I'm trying to be a little more environmentally conscious, to prevent bruising, so my apple doesn't get, dinged and all that. And I'll put it in my backpack.
Wearing a fanny pack is super helpful when walking rather than a backpack. If you feel like, you don't want to carry too much on your back, I like to wear a fanny pack when I go walking because it's just, enough for my phone, like my license or a little bit of money if I needed it. Sometimes I can even fit one of those little mini bottles of water, not like the regular size bottles, but one of the little minis I can fit into my fanny pack too. So I have some water if I need it while I'm walking. You can fit a snack in there, like a little bar, some nuts like we're talking about in the fanny packs. I love my fanny pack.
Yeah, actually, I like them better than a backpack because sometimes a backpack is hard on your shoulders. But yeah, there's more and more places, I don't know if you've noticed, that you can refill bottles.
Yeah.
A couple concerts lately, and there are little water-filled stations, which is great because if you bring one of those little bottles, you can just keep filling it up if you're, in a park or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure this was mentioned, but just also if you're a coffee drinker, I am a coffee drinker. Just a reminder that it has caffeine and it can dehydrate you. So I like to just always have a cup of water after I even have it mixed in with milk or anything like that, just to balance things out.
I think hydration is a really good topic because we're heading into some really hot weather. I see coming up. I mean, not that we've already had pretty hot weather, but it's really hard, and older adults are particularly vulnerable to dehydration. So, coming up with ways to stay hydrated is really important, especially in the next few weeks, the remainder of the summer. What do you think about nutrition bars? I know a lot of times people will pack those. Any guidance on what you look for on the label to, pick a good one as opposed to not so healthy one?
Yeah, the less ingredients, the better. So I always look for them because some of those bars have like a whole boatload of preservatives and different stuff in it that we can't even recognize. We don't even know how to pronounce. So I personally like to look for ones that have less ingredients and that have ingredients that you can recognize in them. So those typically then are ones that are made more from dried fruit and nuts. That's usually what I recommend. There also could be a lot of hidden sources of sugar in some of those bars. So you just want to be careful that there's not too much sugar. I mean, some of them are like, they really look like a chocolate chip cookie. When you look at the ingredients and like you look at how much sugar is in them, it's no different than it's like a chocolate chip cookie with added protein in it. So you definitely want to be careful with the sugar.
Yeah, when you look at a label, some people get confused about sugar and added sugar. How do you explain that to people that, those are two different things?
Yeah. So like added sugar, like think about like table sugar, like think about like your coffee. I always explain like your coffee, if you add sugar to your coffee, that's added sugar. Anything that's added, like think about that word added versus natural from like fruit source, like from fruit or milk. Fruit and milk will contain some natural sugars in them. And so that's your natural sugar, but added sugars are things that are just added and not really necessary. They're used for flavor enhancers.
So if you looked at a label that had fruit in it, you might see the sugar number being, maybe a number you wouldn't, might be like 15 or something, but it's the added sugar that
Correct.
would be the concern.
Yes.
Sometimes I look at the fiber content too, just to see what, I use that as a marker for sometimes other nutrients, like does it going to have any those trace minerals that are good to have. Okay. Well, I was waiting for some more questions, but I don't see any. Before we end, any other thoughts, Jaleesa? Or, okay.
Have fun
Well,
and stay hydrated and stay active.
yeah, I like that have fun part. To me, that's a big part of the outdoor activities.
Yes.
Yep. Because if you like it, like you guys have said, if you enjoy it, it's not going to be anything that's difficult necessarily.
It will only feel better.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll wrap it up because our communications team has said there aren't any more questions. And I want to thank our guests from the New York City Department for Aging. We really appreciate you being here. You truly are experts. And I think next month we have a couple experts. Carrie Skelton from Chautauqua region. She's a registered dietitian and a nutrition educator. She's going to help me with the subject of New York State farmers markets. And we're also going to have Druid Cohen. She's one of my colleagues at New York State Department for Aging and a dietitian. And she coordinates the New York State Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program with the New York State Department of Agriculture and Market. So they work together to get those senior farmer market coupons out to everyone. And, they're in the middle of doing that now. So I'll have both of them available to ask questions about farmers markets nutrition, about that program. It's going to be a good, timely kind of conversation. We also want to remind you that another New York State Department for Aging dietitian, Wendy Beckman, is going to be doing a food demonstration this month. She'll be making a cucumber blueberry salad. I can't wait to try that. Sounds good. On July 29th at 12:30 right here on New York State Office for the Aging Facebook page, that is. Any questions about that? Anything I left out? Did I leave out times or anything that you guys noticed? No? Okay. This program was funded by the United States Department of Agriculture, which is also an equal opportunity employer. So thank you. We really appreciate you visiting us today, and goodbye for now. We'll see you next month.